Welcome to Satsunami. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Satsunami. I'm Satsunami and I feel a very disturbing presence. Hold on, let me just... Oh wait, no, sorry, it's just Adam. Hey there.
I'm back. I live.
It's so... Sorry, can I just point out, it's so funny hearing that and watching the sandwich talk at the same time.
Darth Sandwichius, or something fun as they call me.
Well, yeah. I mean, you know what? I was going to make like a burnt toast reference and be like you're, on the dark side and everything, but it's not going to work. I'm so sorry. I didn't bring.
Oh man, here's a quick question for you though. If I went into the Star Wars universe as let's just say I'm called Darth Sandwich, would I be a worse character than Jar Jar Binks, or do you think I would still be slightly better?
Oh no, you would be 110% better. Don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't bring that heretical viewpoint on here. We are not a controversial channel, okay? We are family friendly.
Oh, just you wait.
We're family friendly. We're open to sponsors. Wink, wink. So yeah, as you can tell by that very subtle reference, today we're going to be talking about Star Wars. And of course, we are going to be talking about what else? The thing we are really well versed in beyond the Raid and the Raid 2. That, of course, being Star Wars games. And I've actually got a question for you before, we kind of dive into this. But what was your first exposure to Star Wars? Because I'm quite curious to hear, was it because of the films that you ended up getting into the games, or was it like vice versa, that you found the games first?
No, it will have been the films. I was just trying to think that when I first saw that, it was definitely the films that I saw first. So I will have seen. What's that? I will see. I've seen. I think I saw the original trilogy some point before Episode 1 came out. Maybe it's like a couple of years before. But it was definitely for me. It was the films I got into first because I didn't. I may have mentioned this in the chat before, but I didn't have a games console until like late 2001 when the original Xbox came out, and like PC my parents had was woeful. Like we could play some games, but it wasn't like you couldn't play games that were current at the time and everything. So I wasn't really able to play anything like that. But it was the films for me. And then when the prequel films came out, I was of that age that I thought they were some of the greatest things ever, and that kind of got me into the games from there.
Because I was definitely the same, because I think it was probably my dad that got me into them. Because he grew up watching the original trilogy and he's like, hey Satsu, watch these films. And I'm like, thank you Satsu Senior. And, I watched them, I loved them, and it was like, I mean, when we were growing up, it was like a huge phenomenon, wasn't it? Like,
oh god, yeah.
I mean, yeah, like, maybe that's a bit of an understatement to be like, Star Wars was a big thing, ooh. But it really was. And I mean, you could see it. I wouldn't say it was like Pokemon, where like Pokemon kind of invaded every single thing. But I mean, Star Wars wasn't too far behind back in the day. Like nowadays, Star Wars is everywhere. It's like, you can't open a box of Shreddies if the new film's out without like,
the rent she's been on it.
Yeah, or like Darth Vader's face, That was actually a thing I saw on... Did you ever see the Red Letter Media reviews for the prequels?
Oh no, I never saw their reviews, right?
Oh, they are so good. They take a very negative stance on it, but they do it in a very like dark humour kind of way. But one of the things they point out is like how they basically plastered, like when Revenge of the Sith came out, they plastered everything with like Star Wars stuff. So it was like all the snacks, all the cereal had like Darth Vader's face, even though he doesn't really show up until the end and everything. And you're kind of like, okay, come on guys, just let's tone it down. But they must have, they've obviously like earned their money back. Like I don't think Star Wars, well, maybe nowadays it's kind of like dangerously close to being shunned. But I mean back then it was like no matter what they would just like throw it out with the Star Wars label, and it would just be like, oh, it's Star Wars, yay. I approve of this message. But I mean, no more is that like evident than the games. And my god, how many games were there? There was just hundreds, wasn't there?
Wikipedia informs me that over 100 video games have been based on the Star Wars based on the Star Wars franchise have been released.
See, I was joking with you like earlier, just before we came on the stream. You were asking me if you needed like a list of your top whatever, like your top favorite games, and I was like jokingly saying, "Oh yeah, just your top 100 or something," but I didn't actually realize it was that much.
As I was sweating away, mopping it off my brow, like God, watching quick YouTube videos. Like, well, I like look at this one. I don't have to play it, but I like this one. And that. Oh God.
Yeah, guys, get your snacks because this is going to be a long one. Number one. I'm good. I mean, they were everywhere. Probably putting you on the spot here, but do you remember what your first game was in Star Wars?
Right, that's a very good question. It's one of two here, and I cannot remember. I think it was the tie-in game for Episode 2, which I put on my Game Boy Advance. I'm pretty sure the only other one it might be is there was one called Star Wars: The Clone Wars, which had nothing to do with like the animated TV.
Yeah,
And like that you and Greenshields went through. It was like a standalone kind of story that took place after Episode 2 of not canon because the story was never continued on, but it was like a vehicle combat game which I loved back in the day. So it was one of those two, but I'm pretty sure it would have been the Episode 2 tie-in for the Game Boy Advance.
I actually do remember the Clone Wars one because I remember being really confused when I was like playing it, thinking, "Wait, Clone Wars? But why are we all in vehicles? Why?" It's like you basically piloted Mace Windu's. Like I think Mace Windu was in a tank, and it was like, "Oh, you're playing as Mace Windu." It's like, no, I'm playing a tank with Mace Windu inside, but it could have been anybody. I mean, it's like there was another one called Jedi Starfighter, which was exactly the same, but as the name implies, it was, spaceships rather than land-based vehicles. It was like half of a game. They split the game in half, and it's like, yeah, one half can go in the land, one half can go in the sky. Space, sorry. Not the sky. I'm underselling it. It's like, this isn't the Battle of Britain we're reenacting, it's in space. Which, oh my god. In fact, no, Doctor Who's already done that. That's fine. Spitfires in space. Spoilers. Moving swiftly on from that so I don't have to talk about it too much. Yeah, I was actually trying to think of the first game that I played. I actually don't know whether... Again, I'm in a similar boat. I don't know whether it was... I'm just trying to think. I don't know whether it was the Phantom Menace for the PS1, which, if that's the case, then that is a tragic first game. Did you ever play that one?
No, but I don't think it's any more tragic than playing the Attack of the Clones tie-in game. We could do a whole episode of what's more tragic, to be honest.
See, on the one hand, I think, that might be a fun game to like go back and play, but considering my track record of like trailing back and playing childhood games, it's not. It's no one.
They've all held up perfectly, haven't they, so far?
Yeah. Oh no, a lot of them really haven't. Although, funny enough, sorry, before I go back on what I was saying there, did I tell you that I tried playing Rogue Squadron recently?
Oh, really?
Well, not on the GameCube, so I've got it for the GameCube, and if I played it on that, I think it would work fine. But I decided to buy it for the PC because I thought, I played Rogue Squadron. I love games, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna play it, and I'm gonna use the keyboard and mouse because pro player here, And I tried playing it, and it is the worst experience I think I've had in like under a minute. I was like, what is going on? Like everything's inverted. For some reason it zoomed me like all the way out. So you see like this pixel, which I'm assuming was meant to be an X-Wing, just like slowly like descending down, and it's like, no. And I kept blowing up, and I'm like, okay, I think I've got the hang of it. And then 2 seconds later I hear on the chatter, they're all dead, Luke. They're all dead. And I was like, oh no, I can't play this. And of course I told you about the Star Wars racer game, or the pod racing one.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah, so just to kind of give context, I bought it for Steam. I kind of wish I didn't, because I thought, this will be like a fun game, because I've never played it before. And then I put it on, and yeah, it just crashes. It won't like let me load it up at all. So I'll never know the joy of Star Wars Racer, or Star Wars Pod Racer. I know.
We can get into it. I made the much more sensible decision of buying it for the Xbox One and marveling at its original Xbox graphics. But yeah, it's a fun little thing. I was not going to go on my best games of all time list, but it's a fun little thing.
Yeah. was just going to say, I can't believe I got low-key jabbed by a sandwich there. To be like, well, I made the decision to,
Oh, I
to
made
be
the
said so.
correct decision.
Yeah.
Has to race my ass.
If only, honestly. But yeah, sorry, going back to like first games, yeah, I think it was either, oh, I'm just trying to remember. It was either the Phantom Menace one or it might have been Battlefront, but I feel as if that is far too late into the series. Because when did the original Battlefront come out? Like,
Yeah, 4, I think, was the original Battle.
yeah, because 2 came out in like 2005, I think.
Yeah.
It was literally like a year before the Revenge of the Sith came out, so they had to like kind of, I wouldn't say rush it out, but you know, it was like linking the two kind of stories together. And I mean, that's like an example of an absolutely fantastic game though, but I'm just trying to think if there was any others. There must have been loads, because I was kind of going through them, and I kept telling myself, I was like, huh, okay, this is quite interesting. Oh, I don't remember that one. But some of them you just look at and you think, I know, obviously, like, this kind of comes with age, but when Star Wars games kind of started, I think the first ones were, like, for the Atari systems. And it's, you know, that way where it's like you have to use kind of artistic interpretation.
Yeah.
To kind of just be like, oh, okay, that's an X-Wing. Okay, no, that's an X-Wing. Okay, that's a TIE Fighter. And you're like, I have no idea what's going on here. But I've actually never played any of those. Not that I would. Like, I don't have... It's like one of the only consoles... Well, not the only. Like, there's a good few consoles I don't have. I'm acting as if I'm, like, the smog of, like, retro gaming. I'm just hoarding them all for myself. But no, like, I think I got into them probably around, like, properly. I probably got into them around, like, the PlayStation 2 era. Because, I mean, there was so many, like, as we were saying before, there were so many, like, spin-offs and, you know, just overall. Because, I mean, you had the Battlefront games. The Battlefront games essentially defined a generation, didn't they?
Oh, yeah.
Like, I think this is, like, going back to what we were saying, like, a good, like, couple of months ago on our, like, shooter episode. You know, it's like GoldenEye, where it's like you look back and you think, this is a game that defined a generation. But then at the same time, you're kind of like, at least with GoldenEye, it's like you don't really want to go back to that stage of FPS. But I mean, Battlefront, do you think Battlefront still holds up? Like the original one?
The original, like, do you mean the 2004 one?
Yeah, well, both of them, I suppose.
Like, in fairness, they're not mechanically that different. In fairness, in terms of like the core like shooting game, I would go back and play 2 before, like, 2, the one was 2005, before I would play like the original one. Although I remember, like, when the original one came out, I was like, thought it was like one of the greatest games I'd ever played. I absolutely adored it. Sunk so many hours into it. I think just with 2, like, there's just more stuff in it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, 1 feels a little bit stripped back. I don't think 1 even had a proper campaign, did it? Now that I think about it.
It had Galactic Conquest, which was pretty much just instant battles over and over again, but that was it. Whereas 2, do you remember, like, when it came out, when we were younger, and everyone was talking about it, that, like, you could do space battles, there was a story mode and everything, and everyone was going nuts about it. And for good reason, because it really held up to the hype when it came out. It's one of those kind of perfect examples of, you know, just a game that's been hyped up, and I feel as if I'm repeating myself from a couple of weeks ago when we actually talked about hyping games. But it really did. I don't know, like, do you feel as if the reputation of these games kind of set a high standard for, like, what's to come?
Oh, I definitely think so. I mean, because obviously, so you had, like, I think the games, a lot of the Star Wars games that were released in that kind of, like, early to mid 2000s period, like, really did, like, define, like, people's expectations of Star Wars games, and, like, kind of made the ceiling. The people were like, you know, these are the greatest games, and the games that come have to try and match these. So obviously you had the Battlefronts, which the shooters were, like, you know, top of the pile. But then you had Knights of the Old Republic. Around it was around the same time, wasn't it? It might have been a year earlier. I can't remember when I have to admit, I'll admit I've not really played much of Knights of the Old Republic. I played it a little bit when I was a kid, and it wasn't a game for me, like, at that time. But that's not to take anything away, because I know people have huge, like, respect and love for that game. You know, rightly so. It does seem amazing, but that really defined, you know, that's like a Star Wars game as well. People were like, right, this is amazing. Like, everything has to match this now. There was also that what was it called? There was that real-time strategy one. It's Empire at War or something.
Yeah, that's the
I think
one.
a lot of people really like that. I don't know really anything about that one other than the name and its real-time strategy, but I think a lot of people really like that one as well. So it just seemed in this kind of period there were lots of these Star Wars games that were just like they were just churning out these great titles and great title after great title, and then it just I think it almost ruined, like, it was such a high bar set for what came that
Yeah.
it really kind of seems to be maybe only of recent years that, like, some of the Star Wars games are starting. People are starting to be like, right, these can be, these are reaching the top tier of Star Wars games.
It's just I'm thinking back to like when it all changed, and I don't want to like go off in a rant to be like Disney ruined Star Wars, like
But
Speaking of original hot takes, yeah, let's just dive in the deep end and be controversial. Disney wrote. No, I'm kidding. Because I'm thinking like the last games that came out under LucasArts, it was things like the Force Unleashed series and games like that before they started rebooting was it the Battlefront franchise actually? Was that the first games that kind of came out? Give or
that's
take.
a good question. Certainly, yeah. So the Battlefront got rebooted in 2015. So I'm trying to think what came out either. Obviously, as you said, like the two Force Unleashed were before that, but in that kind of last period before LucasArts lost and EA monopolized it. Was there that MMO as well? Was that?
Oh yeah. Well, there was actually two MMOs, was there not? There was
Two of them, was it?
so there was Star Wars Galaxies, which the only reason I know about it is because I bought like this back in the day, like years and years ago. I bought like this 5-in-1 disc thing where it had like Empire at War, the original Battlefront, like all these really like good games, and at the end of it it was like, also here's a trial for Star Wars Galaxies. And it was like okay. Never played it. I think they actually shut it down because if I can't remember why they shut it down, but I think towards the end of it they were just like, oh, by the way, like I think it was really hard to be like a Jedi in it. You had to just be like a bog standard, like run-of-the-mill guy or smuggler or whatever. And then at the end it was like Oprah, where it was like, you're a Jedi, you're a Jedi. And then I think they just said it ruined the game and just everyone just went nuts before they shut down the servers. But you're right, they still have one ongoing just now called The Old Republic, which
Nice.
I have to admit I have downloaded it, but I have not tried it out yet. I'm really curious, like, to see what it's like. I mean, I'm not a huge MMO person, I have to say. Like, different tastes and things. It could be amazing in terms of MMOs, but yeah, I think the only MMO I've really played is... I know, this is going to sound so basic, but I think the only MMO I've played is World of Warcraft. I know.
How very.
Well, that and Lord of the Rings online, but that was a brief stint. That was a brief stint. I'm gonna... I did it for a day, I swear. I didn't create a Hobbit bard, I swear. It was...
Swear to do it, Judge. Don't put me away.
Yeah, don't worry. I'll cut this bit out. Like...
Nobody will know. But do you know what? One thing, it's actually funny talking about like that period before it was rebooted. I was just scrolling through because there's hundreds of these things. I was scrolling through to try and get a sense.
Yeah.
And then my eyes were drawn to one that I'd completely forgotten about, but I remember at the time being notorious and people like absolutely hating on it at the time, rightly so. Which was there was the Kinect Star Wars game in 2012.
Oh.
So you remember that one for the 360's Kinect, which had I think you could do some lightsaber fighting, quote, lightsaber fighting with the Kinect. But what I remember most about it, not that I ever played it, but from what I see, I remember it had a dance game, which was like some like cheap, terrible, like it's like a Just Dance knockoff.
Yeah.
Where Han Solo was, and they like did they not like take like popular songs at the time and like tortuously reworking Star Wars lyrics?
Yeah, like instead of I don't even know the song, but I think it's Raiden Solo or something like that.
Oh,
but
God.
instead of that, the lyrics are rewritten, so it's I'm Han Solo, so it's like I'm Han Solo, I'm Han Solo, and you're like, oh Jesus.
Oh my God.
Like, I bet you the person writing it was just like, Billy, you've done it again. Genius. You're like, oh god, just please stop. Please. No more. But yeah, apparently, and I was kind of looking into the games, like, before I came on, and yeah, there's, like, a lot of game modes in that. Like, there's a dancing one, there's the lightsaber action, which apparently is very on the rails.
Really?
It's not It's not great at all. What's the other one? There's a pod racing one, ironically enough.
Oh, nice. That would probably work quite well.
Yeah, but like it's the same. You kind of have to put out your hands and like move left and right, but it keeps you like on a track, so like you can't crash. Or if you do crash, it brings you like right into the middle. So you're kind of like, oh, okay, we're doing this, are we? Are we? Thank you, Connect.
Can I just say I was
Okay.
just looking. I went on the Wikipedia page for the Connect Star Wars, and I was looking at some of the like songs that they reworked. They
Uh-huh.
reworked YMCA into Empire Today.
Oh, that is amazing.
I'm gonna listen to that one. That sounds amazing.
Oh, do you know,
Empire
do you
Today. I
know?
could just I don't know any of the lyrics, but I could just imagine it.
Yeah, I'm actually just wondering if it's backwards compatible with
Oh
the
my god, are
Xbox
you
One.
gonna get it out?
Yeah, like I kept thinking about this, like whether to go public or not, to be like, if it's backwards compatible, should I get it to try it on stream?
Do you
And I'm
have a
like,
Connect still?
I do. Well, I have it for the Xbox One because that was back in the day where I was kind of getting FOMO with it
Uh,
because everyone said the Kinect's terrible, and I was like, well, maybe it's not that bad. Like, I didn't get it with my Xbox. Like, I got it out of CEX. Like, I think for like £30 or something, which probably is too much because I don't think I've ever plugged it in since. Like, sometimes it doesn't work. Like, I could say like Xbox off and it would turn it off, but if I say Xbox on, it's like it almost feels as if I'm bullying it because it won't turn on. I'm yelling at it, going, Xbox, please turn on. I'm too lazy. It's like,
I unplugged mine. I bought an Xbox One when you had to get a Connect with it.
oh
The
yeah.
game,
Uh-huh.
I've unplugged mine, and I don't even know where I put it now. I've
Do you,
put it in a dark corner to think on its shame and have a good hard look at itself.
do you know, like, going off on a slight tangent here, but I think the only time I properly played on the Kinect was at yours when we played D4, Dark
Oh
Dreams
my
Don't
god!
Die.
Yeah.
Yep, that's the
The
one.
only reason I have a Connect is to play that game.
And the only reason I used the Kinect was because I was sitting in front of the camera by accident, and it picked up my body, and it was like, "Oh, so you want to use the Kinect, do you?" And I was like, "Wait, no, 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 stop, please."
Then I went and hit all the controllers, so you had to use the Connect.
Yeah. Oh, oh god, that was rough. That was a rough experience. But I don't think they ever brought out like a Star Wars game for the Kinect. In fact, they didn't bring out much for the Kinect after that. But that's that's another Satsunami on the horizon. Wait, did that game come out for the Xbox 360 or was it the Xbox One?
No, it was 2012. It was a
Oh,
360.
was it? Right. I wonder if they did make it backwards compatible. Because see if they did, like I have so many questions.
It says under platforms it only has the 360
Oh, thank God.
at the minute, but I don't know whether that means it might be. I mean, I can't imagine why they wouldn't get such a stone cold classic and make
I
it
mean,
backwards compatible.
well, that is true. I mean,
Although I tell you what, if this was backwards compatible and
Uh-huh.
the Time Splitters games still aren't, I think I would have flipped my my monitor if I'd read that.
I honestly don't blame you if that was the case. I would have been raging. I mean, at least the PlayStation one's backwards compatible, I think.
No, oh, fair.
Well, I mean, for Time
Oh, for Time
Splitters.
Splitters.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Not for, not for the PlayStation Move
I was
version
like,
of
my
it.
God, they actually got the Connect on.
God, someone's probably like, what do you call that? Where it's like they rework like the hardware, where it's like, yes, I've got
I've-
my. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, I'm imagining some like industrial espionage here.
Yeah.
Where somebody from Sony is like stealing like a Connect under their coat and a copy of Star Wars Connect, and just like nonchalantly like whistling, who's like walking out with these things under.
Oh,
They
how
just had to reverse engineer them.
yeah, how wrong they were. Can you imagine? Right. So you know how piracy and gaming is a big thing.
Yeah.
Can you imagine being caught for like not only pirating a game but pirating this game? Like,
So we're not arresting you because you're pirating. We're arresting you because you pirated this game.
we're arresting you because you've got terrible taste.
You must be removed from society.
It's better for us than it is for you. Let's go. Just carting them away. Here's a question though. Has there ever been like a Star Wars game that you've seen and you've really wanted to play it, but you never really had the chance to play it until much later on?
Ooh, good question. Do you know what? I was very like, I've not played it, and it's not like I can't play, but like I've always been really intrigued by Fallen Order, but I honestly just have such a backlog of games, and I just don't get the time now. And with it being like one of these like longer games, I'm just like, oh, it's such a commitment. That's why I was like, I could get Fallen Order, or I could get Pod Racer, which I can sink like I can play for 15 minutes. That'd be like, oh, I could do something else now.
No, do you know it's scary because I think exactly the same thing. I mean, I've got Fallen Order and I have like streamed it before, but I feel as if after that stream I wasn't really that enthralled with it. And I don't know, like it was the same kind of feeling I felt with like Red Dead Redemption. Where it's just I'm not as I said, I'm not calling them bad games or anything, but it's just because there's so much to do, and you're just sitting there thinking, I just want a simple story, A to B, and I feel bad because, like, do you remember when The Force Unleashed came out, and that is literally just a linear story where you could get collectibles, but the story was you get from point A to point B, and you probably got people saying, oh, I wish there was more exploration, or I wish there was more of this or that, and Fallen Order is like perfect for that, and it's got like good systems and everything, but I just can't be bothered. Like, I just look at it and I'm like, I don't want to play you today.
It's such an investment of time, isn't it?
It really is. Sometimes you just want to flip on a game and just like play like a couple of rounds of something. Like, I mean, that's what Battlefront 2, like the old one, was really good for. But the reboot, that is, where do I begin with that? Have you ever heard of the Supremacy mode?
Well, I actually got Battlefront 2 not long ago.
Oh, did you?
I've like maybe a couple of weeks ago, maybe a week ago. I've been mostly playing the single player camp, which is it's fine. Single player campaign, like the story is utter nonsense. But the set pieces are kind of entertaining and it looks nice. But I never really touched. I only played one round of multiplayer today, actually in preparation, just in case we talked about Battlefront 2. I did play Supremacy. I've only played one round in fairness, so I can't really judge the full thing, but I had fun playing it.
I like the idea of it, but I feel as if it goes on for far too long. Like, I get that's the point of it. So basically, sorry, just to explain to people who haven't played it, Supremacy is basically like a tug-of-war game. So it's like, you have to capture, I think it's like a couple of like specific control points, like the original games. And if you capture more than the enemy within a set time limit, then the enemy have to retreat. And they retreat into their like capital, like flagship, and then you have to fight your way through that ship and destroy their like engines or whatever it is inside. But if you don't, then it kicks you back onto like the main map, where you have to do all of that all over again. And don't get me wrong, like, in a way it's fun, but see if you keep winning and losing, I feel as if it would just get very repetitive. Like,
I must have played a different game mode, because that was definitely not the one I played. So I must have played, I thought I played Supremacy, but I must have been playing someone else. But yeah, that's very much in the mold of the Battlefield kind of games, where they have their very long, drawn out ones. So yeah, like they can be. I agree with what you're saying. They can be fun, but sometimes, like as you say, it's such a time sink.
I mean, I have to admit though, I feel as if the new one, obviously because of the updated graphics and everything, but I feel as if the new one's a lot more intense than the old one. Like the old one, you see bullets flying, and you're like, oh right, okay, there's a pixel. But when you see this, you're like, Jesus, get down, get down.
Everything like, but I remember the like I think as well, like it's a thing of time as well, isn't it? Like at the time, I remember when the original Battlefront 2 came out. I wish they told them something different. I hate but yeah, when the original Battlefront 2 came out, I remember being like, oh, like part of the reason I loved it so much, and the same with like the original Battlefront, was like, oh my god, like it's you're part of these like giant battles and everything, which don't really hold up now, as you say, like as you correctly point out, they look a bit hokey now compared to especially the new ones. But I remember at the time being like, oh, just being this like little cog in like a giant like galactic battle. It was really cool.
I don't know. I have to admit, I think I kind of moaned to you about this when I got the game. I bought the first remake of or reboot technically,
Uh,
of Battlefront, and I really did not enjoy it. Like, I don't know what it was, but there was just kind of this instant hatred when I started playing it, because I was like, why is there tokens on the field? Why is there this? Why is there that? And I honestly felt like an old man saying that, like, not my Star Wars, but it's like, this is just a mishmash of ideas. And don't get me wrong, I feel as if, like, like, again, I'm kind of running on stereotypes by saying, oh, it's EA's fault. But it's like, I feel as if technically they've gotten better with the franchise over time. Like, I mean, would you say that? Like, counting from.
when did they when did they start? So I suppose like their kind of quote unquote stewardship of the thing started with the first Battlefront.
Yeah.
Because that's when they got the license. It looks like 2013. It looks like Battlefront was the first big one to come out. So I guess I don't know, like, because it's a funny thing because I think when each of their game, maybe apart from Fallen Order, I'll take Fallen Order out of this. And I don't know much about Squadrons, so I won't say much about. Okay, I'll just talk based on about the two Battlefront games.
Yeah.
It seems that when those games first got released, they were released in not the best shape. Like the original Battlefront when it was the reboot lacked a lot of content, while Battlefront 2 was mired in that microtransaction like controversy
that was horrific.
Absolute shellacking the game like before it came out, and when it came out on release, it was absolutely lambasted. But both games did make I think Battlefront 2 has made a spectacular recovery now, like, and it does. People seem to really like love it as like a game. And even the first Battlefront, like I'd given up by it by that point, but they seem to add a lot of content. I said I'd kind of put it aside by that point, but did here. So I think with those two games, they started off rocky, but I think they did kind of make a recovery with them.
It's quite surprising though. Like, as you said, they really, like, I think there was a thing on Reddit where they did like an EMA and people were asking them, why are you putting in these microtransactions? And I think he came away with some like bull answer like, oh, it's good for the player, or like basically trying to gaslight people to say it's good for you. Don't you believe us? And it's like nobody like hooked onto it, and everybody like downvoted them, and just like it was a massacre. It was like a verbal massacre towards them and the game's reputation. But I should have said it was like an Order 66 on their reputation. But Star Wars. Yeah, I'm getting out all the references as quick as possible. Like, gotta get them. But yeah, like, from that to what it is now, it's so surprising how it's kind of evolved. But I feel as if, in a way as well, there's very much kind of a uniformity, if you know what I mean. If that's even the word, where it's like they're all kind of. I mean, again, I'm not like a game developer by any means, so like take these words or this opinion with a pinch of salt. But it feels as if they all follow like a kind of standard formula, and I don't know whether that's just me looking with rose-tinted glasses, like on the old games when they kind of had room to explore and like do different things with the franchise. It's like, I mean, you had a huge a shooter game in the form of Battlefront. You had a kind of shooter adventure game with Star Wars Bounty Hunter, which is actually the game I was going to bring up earlier. That was a game. Did you ever play Bounty Hunter when it came out?
I haven't heard of it. I never actually played it.
It's like the story's interesting, but I've kind of looked back and people do not rate it as kind of holding up, and I'm like, I can see why. Because I had like real difficulties playing it when I was younger. It is a solid game. It is like really difficult. Like, I don't think I ever completed it. But I mean, you've got those kind of games. You had Empire at War, which is a RTS. It's an RTS, isn't it? It's like a strategy game. Anyway,
it's like in the vein of like Command and Conquer, I think.
Yeah, or Total War, maybe even.
Yeah, sort of like that kind of base build.
Yeah, I mean, you had those kind of ones. Although it's funny to kind of see that the most popular ones were either the ones with Jedi or ones you could shoot things. And the one I'm thinking off the top of my head is Republic Commando, which... Yeah, that was just such a highlight. I don't think I played that until like maybe a couple of years ago.
Same for me.
Yeah, like I played it really late on because, funny enough, I remember I had it was like the DVD for the 2003 Clone Wars series, and that had a demo for it
Yeah.
that you could put into
Oh,
your console. The only thing
awesome.
was it was only for the Xbox, and I didn't have an
Oh,
Xbox at the
oh, no.
time, so I never got to try it. I was like, oh man, I was raging. Well, not raging, but I was just like, oh, that sucks. But when I played it, that's a game that holds up surprisingly well, like both
It's
of
got
them.
really cool stuff in it. Actually, like it's actually quite for its time. I think as well. It was actually quite like if you look at it now, it was actually quite far ahead
Oh
for
yeah.
its time. Some of the things it did. Yeah, like I'm the same as you. Like I only played it. I think I only played 2019. I think was the first time I played it. I just got it like on sale for the Xbox One. So it's just the import of the original Xbox game. I think it's been re-released now for like it's been remastered for Switch and PS4.
Is it on the Switch?
I think it is now, yeah, or it's certainly going to be released on the Switch.
Okay.
But like the Xbox version is just still the original port. But like,
Yeah.
yeah, no, I had a lot of fun with it. I mean, I remember excited for it when it first came out, like in 2005. And I remember playing a demo. Like I remember playing a demo for it. But the funny thing was when I played the demo, so I had to do some stuff, and I think what happened was like my squad mates glitched out, so I had to get them to do something like blow up a wall or something. But the game had glitched, the demo had glitched out a bit, and so like rather than just being a rational person and just restarting it, in my child mind, I was like, well, this game is clearly broken. I was just like, I want nothing to do with this. Even though it was a demo and it wasn't actually the game. I was like, I want nothing to do with this piece of trash. And I never touched it again for 14 years because I was a dumb child. I'm a dumb person now, but obviously I was a dumb child as well.
I'm just laughing because see if you had YouTube back then, I can imagine the reviews just like terrible game, broken. We're not playing it anymore.
It's a full like strop in front of my webcam, yelling into my Blue Yeti mic.
Exactly. The angry instead of the angry video game there, just the angry video game. Adam, just like, oh sorry, the angry video game sandwich. Now it would be.
That's true.
True.
Spraying mayo everywhere.
Yeah.
Crumbs.
Jesus. The horror, isn't it? The horror. Yeah, I'm going to say it now, though. I think that Republic Commando, in terms of the AI, I think that holds up a lot better than Call of Duty AI in the new games. I'm going to say that now, and I'm going to put my foot down. And the reason I say that is because I went off on a massive rant when I was talking to you about Modern Warfare, not the original, sorry, the remaster. I think it was the 2019 one.
Yeah.
And the reason being, so just to give you a bit of context, imagine, you're playing the new Modern Warfare. You think, wow, this game looks absolutely beautiful, Infinity Ward, they have done a fantastic job with this game. Imagine going to the start of a level, not even a combat situation, and one of the AI just starts moonwalking, right on the spot. Not moving, like when you hit them, like when you shoot them, when you throw grenades at them, just not moving at all. And it means it soft locks the game, so I can't continue. That happened to me about 3 separate times throughout the game. And the first time I played Republic Commando, I had none of that. So you know what? Republic Commando is a lot better in terms of AI. And it's like, it's astonishing to see how well it's held up over the years, isn't it?
It is. It's a real shame that it never got a sequel. Especially because it ended on a cliffhanger.
Oh yeah, they.
Spoilers if you ever want to play this game, it ends on a cliffhanger. Although I think they released some books, so if you really want to, you can go.
But that's like Halo, isn't it?
Yeah, but we want a game at the end of the day. Like, I want to read, I want to play, I want to shoot some droids. But no, it was really even small things. Something that I still like really marvel at. I don't remember, but in Republic Commando, sometimes like if you shoot like an enemy, say you shoot a droid quite up close, like it's fluid when it explodes, the fluid will like spray onto your visor, and then like you get the kind of like cleaning thing that comes across.
Yeah,
that's a really cool touch, and I quite like the fact that the camera was sort of ensconced inside the helmet.
Yeah.
Of the clone, rather than like a lot of shooters, it's almost like a GoPro or something. I guess like you could imagine being attached. You're not actually inside like the character's like helmet or anything like that. I thought it was just really cool details like that.
It was really neat. So I'm just laughing because I remember I think a lot of FPS games, or just like a lot of first person games, don't give your character like a head. They just like you have basically like a disembodied, or not disembodied, but like this body just without a head, but it's got like a camera on top of it. So like when you're walking around, you're just like, where is my head? And obviously that's because it's like to save. Like there's no point rendering a ahead if
Yeah.
you're not going to be seeing it, really, unless it's like Cyberpunk or something, where it's like you look in the mirror and you think, well, technically you're
Where's
thinking,
my
gee,
clothes?
yeah, exactly, where are my clothes? And it's like, oh yeah, where's my head? Okay, that's the Cyberpunk obligatory bashing segment done.
It's now a thing. Do we have to do it every episode? I mean, not that I'm not in favour of it, but is it now a thing?
Yeah, I
The,
feel as
the
if
audience expects it.
do you know, it's going to develop to be a good game eventually, like after its 5-year
Oh, hopefully.
manifesto, but like after that, I'm sure it'll be fine. Anyway, sorry, moving quickly on.
Trash for now, though.
Trash what?
It's trash for now. I was just joking.
Oh, yeah. For now, yeah. But speaking of trash, actually, yeah, should we bring up the elephant in the room for Star Wars games? Because I've actually put it on the picture of today's episode. That, of course, being Star Wars 1313.
Oh,
Yeah. Were you as disappointed as I was?
yeah.
Like, when...
Yeah, I was gutted when I heard that had been that had been canned.
So just to kind of explain briefly, like, 1313 was meant to be like was it an open world game?
Yeah, I think it was gonna be. I think it was gonna be, or was it gonna be a bit like the Uncharted games?
I think so, something like that.
Maybe like cross between those two things.
Because apparently they had like a lot of art and everything, and it's actually fascinating. See if you go behind the scenes and see like the interviews with the, you know, the different like developers and people who worked on it. Because I think, and again, this isn't like official, so I don't know, but I think one of the developers had said like they were going to include things like Boba Fett in the game. They were going to include, I don't know whether they were going to include Jedi or not, or that was going to be the twist at the end that, oh, you're a Jedi, you know, surprise surprise, as if that's not been done before. But even still, like, it built it up as you just being this smuggler in the lower parts of Coruscant, and it was so cool. Like, the idea itself was cool, but that came at the same time as like that transition period between, you know, LucasArts selling their game division, well, just Star Wars in general, rather, to Disney, and then that's when it transitioned into the EA games, because I think it was the last game under LucasArts, not The Force Unleashed 2, or it was kind of around that time. There might have been
It
more...
could have been. I'm generally hoping it's not. Do you know what? It may well have been Connect Star Wars.
Oh, surely.
Force Unleashed 2 was 2010.
Yeah.
Connect Star Wars is 2012. I'm desperately trying to see if there's another game.
Oh, please. There is no...
It could be the last game.
No, surely not. There has to be another game.
Oh.
Oh,
It looks like there was a couple of handheld mobile games.
yeah.
I don't know if that's any better or any worse.
You know what? We'll take it. We'll take it. Anything but that. I can't believe that. If that's the last
I know we trashed Disney, but like, if that was LucasArts' last attempt at Star Wars
that,
game,
yeah. That
maybe it was like a mercy that they got taken away from them.
What, you mean like the digital version of Mice and Men, just like
Yeah, pretty much.
taking Lucas out? Yeah, taking LucasArts back out. It's like, tell me about the Connect, George. There's actually a comic about that, kind of, sorry, slightly off topic, but have you seen that, the Jar Jar Binks comic, where they introduce his dad? I can't remember I think his name's like George Binks or something. He's like something like that. I can't remember what it is, but he's like a very, he's like a very, you know, like established sailor or something like that. And he's a Gungan as well, but it's like, is when I don't know if I genuinely don't know if this is a parody or not, but the only like main clip that sticks in my head is they get marooned, so it's him, his wife, and Jar Jar as a child, like running about, and he takes a blaster and puts it to his head, and you know, like his wife saying, George, you know, don't do it, think of your family, and then he pulls the trigger, and it's like,
wow,
Jesus, yeah. It's like this, like, is just a whole comic where it's just like, apparently it doesn't kill. Yeah, it's like, it doesn't kill him. It's like,
what? It's got like a blaster-proof head.
It's something like that. Yeah, the Jar Jar like franchise is strong. I mean, like, have you not seen them in Battlefront?
Well, you know, that's a fair point. Good point.
Yeah, they're just bulletproof. I mean, they were in this franchise for 3 films and the entirety of the Clone Wars. So, you know, surely they can't die, I think, is basically what I'm trying to say here. The Gungans can't die, which is a phrase I never thought I would say tonight, so yes. one other thing, kind of looping back and pretending that Star Wars Connect doesn't exist. The Force Unleashed, see when that came out, did you play it?
No, I've never played either of them.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's on Game Pass, and this is something I always say, so apologies. I'm
It
like,
might be.
I think that game.
Lots of Star Wars games went on.
Yeah, I think it is, but it's just the only reason I bring it up is I was just going to ask, did you know what the difference was between the Wii version and the Xbox version?
Oh, I know there's a difference, but it's gone out of my mind what it is. So remind me.
So I remember, so kind of flashing back into the past of young Satsu, I remember I remember seeing the trailers on, just everywhere on TV, on buses and things, thinking, this game looks really cool. And, like, at the time, the graphics looked absolutely fantastic, and there was the rumours that, so basically the plot of it is you're a young force sensitive child that kind of gets taken away by Darth Vader, and he like raises you to be his next apprentice and everything, and like the premise is like you're doing secret missions for him, and then it's like, are you going to be good, are you going to be bad, like all of that. You can basically configure your lightsaber throughout it, so you can have like different colours of it and things. Like, they were doing this long before like Jedi Fallen Order were doing it, and it was really cool. So I thought, because I had a Wii at the time, everyone was saying, oh, and this was long before the Kinect and the like PlayStation Move, but it was like, oh, that means I can wave my, wave the Wii remote as a lightsaber. And I thought, that is really cool, I'm going to do that. So I remember buying the game, and I think I was like away, I was like in a different city at the time, so I couldn't get home until like the next day to play the game. So like I had like a full day of hype within me, and I ran home like eventually as soon as we got the train back. I ran home, like I plugged it in, I was like, oh boy, I can't wait to play this. And the graphics were absolutely, they were genuinely like PlayStation 2, PlayStation 1 graphics. And I was just like, what is this? Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, see the way they advertise the like Xbox game, because that was the one that was on like all the posters and things. But then you play the Wii one, and don't get me wrong, the Wii one is a lot of fun, but the graphics just did not hold up whatsoever.
They do look. I'm looking at some screenshots here. They do look a little bit dicey.
Do you see what I mean though? Like, they are
quite PS.
Like, can you imagine, like, being in the Xbox 360, where like all these really, like graphically challenging games come out, and then you get that, and you're just like, oh, okay, which pixel's Darth Vader?
Oh man, crushing blow.
Oh, it was. I mean, it's not the worst. Like, obviously, good graphics don't make it doesn't make like a game bad 9 times out of 10. Sometimes it can, but no, not for that. But I never actually played the sequel, though. Did you?
From what I've not played either of them, but from what I understand, the sequel isn't as good. The story's quite confused, from what I understand. I think it involves a lot of clones. People start getting cloned. Yeah. Which one am I? It's like, oh god. Oh no, try and figure this out.
Did you say that came out in 2010?
2010, yeah.
Right, okay. No, that's fine. Because I was thinking, this is going to sound like a very weird comparison, so bear with me. But I just remember Shadow the Hedgehog doing something very similar in 2005. And I'm like, please God, no. There wasn't like a fanatic who was like a Star Wars and Sonic fan, just like, clones. It's like clones. I don't like it. Yes, I'm absolutely joking when I say that, by the way. I truly don't believe that they copied Shadow the Hedgehog of all things. God, can you imagine though?
Know.
Like, can you imagine like years later, where when they like turn old and then we're just like reading the news and it's like, former creator confesses to copying Shadow the Hedgehog, and it's like, I knew it. I have evidence.
Oh. Just speaking of since we started talking about 1313 and it being cancelled. This wasn't the only Star Wars game that's been cancelled. A high profile Star Wars game that's been cancelled. This also happened under EA's watch as well, which I think this is probably the lowest point. I know like the release of the two Battlefront games weren't great, but I think that this story I'm about to tell is the lowest point for EA's stewardship of the of the Star Wars franchise, which was there was going to be like a standalone single player Star Wars game released, which was going to be done by that Visceral Studios, who are most famous doing the Dead Space games.
Oh
And
yeah.
I think it was going to be. This is where I get a little bit confused between it and 1313, because I think this one is basically known as Project Ragtag. Is what it was kind of, its development name was known. And so Ragtag was going to be like an Uncharted style adventure thing. So again, I don't think it was like Jedi's and stuff. I think it was that kind of maybe, you know, like bounty hunters or smugglers, or, you know, something like that. More like a kind of normal Joe, as opposed to like a Jedi or a Sith or anything. And then the story allegedly goes, and this is my favorite, but also the video game story that makes me the most angry.
Yeah.
I think I've told you this before, so apologies for repeating. But if anybody hasn't heard it. So apparently what happened, legend goes, is that like the Visceral Studio employees who were working on the game made a presentation up for some of the higher ups in EA to show them what their plans were for the game, how the development was going, like what they were planning to do next. And so they ran through all of it, and you know, this is what our vision is, this is what we've done so far, this is what we're going to do. And apparently, at the end of the presentation, after all that, one of the EA executive went, "Yeah, but what's your version of FIFA Ultimate Team?" So, for people who don't know, FIFA Ultimate Team in FIFA is that mode where like you unlock like packs of cards and like they have like random players in them and everything. And the idea is that you kind of build your own team, and so like you don't know what you're gonna get. You might get a really good player, but you might not. And you have to buy these cards with points, which I think you can either earn or you can, you know, pay money to get points and stuff. And so it was just that like perfect summation of kind of the EA management's vision. Like how can we monetize this?
Yeah.
And so not long after that, I think that the game was cancelled. The game was canned. I think Visceral Studios went under as well. Not to be. So I don't know whether some of that got maybe put into Fallen Order after a while. But that for me, that story is what I think is the real like just low point of EA helming the Star Wars video game franchise series.
Oh yeah. I mean, speaking of like kind of cancelled games like that, and again, I know we brought it up earlier about being quite bitter about or rather, me ranting about it. But you know, like about how they tried to do the same thing with Battlefront 2, and then they just like the fan base weren't having it, and they had to like backtrack severely. But I think one of the tragedies, and I'm not talking about Plagueis here, but one of the greatest tragedies was Battlefront 3, which I don't know, have you seen like the behind the scenes stuff for it?
No, I haven't.
Like, honest to God, they got really far into development. They basically had a story mode where I think it was just basically you played as like, I think you played a clone trooper that was hunting down the Jedi, and I don't know if it was force sensitive or not, I can't remember, but it was like, you know, like a cat and mouse thing, and it looked quite interesting. But what you also had, which I thought was quite cool, was, you know, in 2, they introduced the original 2005 one, they introduced the space battles and the land battles.
Yeah.
But, you know, they were very separate. They weren't, you know, they didn't marry them together. For this, they actually gave you the opportunity. So you could be, like, on land, and then you could just fly up into space seamlessly, and then take the battle there, which I thought was, like, a really cool idea. And there was all these kind of, like, cool concepts that they had, and they're like, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And it's just kind of heartbreaking to see that they had all of that. And then they were just like, yeah, bad news, guys, we're kind of shutting up shop here. And it's like, oh... It's like, oh no. I mean, I think technically, and I never played it, but technically there was a Battlefront 3, but it was for the PlayStation Vita. And it was like Star Wars... I can't remember if it was like Star Wars Rebellion or Squad or something. I can't even remember what it was called. It was Star Wars something. I don't know. Renegade Squadron, I think that was it, yeah. But yeah, it was like, I mean, it's alright, but, I mean, did you know many people with it? And again, I'm not bashing, like, Sony here, but I mean, did you know anybody with a PlayStation Vita?
I didn't know many people with a PSP.
No. Yeah, exactly.
So I presume maybe it was on the Vita, about 5 people played it then, maybe?
Yeah, like, I remember seeing, like, someone in the playground when I was at school, like, had a PSP, and just being like, what the hell is that? It's just like, oh, right, okay, it's the PlayStation Vita. You know, with all of its, like, DVDs and games and stuff that...
To that person ever again.
Yeah. I actually can't remember who it was, and I think that says a lot. about the Vita, or just the PSP in general. Is like, yeah, if you get a Vita, you'll become invisible, which is either a help or a hindrance. Nah,
Your
I'm only.
powers wise.
Yeah. You have chosen poorly. Would you say there's any particular... So I'll give you a quick question. Is there any particular Star Wars game that you think excels and one that was like a major disappointment?
I think if you're asking me my favorite of the Star Wars games I've played, it's the original Battlefront 2. Is from the 2005 is still my favorite. It's still favorite because I remember how much I enjoyed it when I played it. I remember how cool it was, and I've gone back and played it a couple of times. I still enjoy it for it's dated, but I still think it's a really enjoyable game that is easy to kind of get into and play. Yeah, like I've really enjoyed that one. Like Republic Commando we talked about, I think it's great. It's still great. I really actually like the Lego Star Wars games. I thought they were actually a lot of fun.
Oh, they're great.
Just to give a quick shout, I'll give a quick shout out to those ones. And then finally, one I played recently, which is an old Star Wars game now from 1995, which was Dark Forces, which was like an FPS in the same style of like Doom, Duke Nukem, Wolfenstein, games like that, which like again it's dated now and like it's a bit tricky to get into in terms of how it plays, but actually like I quite like the story and I like the environment. They've got a lot of cool environments, I think, and everything, and I actually really enjoyed it. You can pick it up quite cheap on Steam if you're interested. I thought that was a really good one. In terms of disappointments, you know what? I don't think if any of this. I mean, I think the closest that I don't think I've ever been fully disappointed by a game, the Star Wars game that I've played. I think maybe the closest was the rebooted Battlefront. Now, when I got that, I really enjoyed it when I played it. When I played it for the first while, I thought the graphics looked amazing. I really loved being part of large scale battles and everything. And I think as well, like I kind of had a good wave of nostalgia. And I was like, oh, it's so good to have Battlefront back again, that I don't think I properly like kind of thought about it. And then it was only after playing for a while, I was like, and there's not much in this game.
Yeah,
I don't think this is a great game. Like overall, I didn't have it wasn't disappointing to begin with, but it really kind of sunk into me after a while. And I said, I know like it got a lot more content added and everything to it, but I checked out by the time that happened. So, I didn't get the benefit from that. So that would be that. I'll pick that one for my greatest disappointment. And also 1313B count.
One day we can say that. I'm gonna kind of like jump off the back of that and say like I completely agree with you for the reboot of the first Battlefront. I don't know what it is because I know they're like a competent developer when they want to be, and the reason I say that is because I remember playing Battlefield 3, like the multiplayer. And that came out like long before the reboot came out, and it was probably one of my favourite like experiences of playing a shooter game, online. So I know technically they do have the resources for it, and there was like so much potential of just like, see, even if they went the lazy route and they just put a skin over like Battlefield 4 or Battlefield 3, then I would have been happy, like because it was so good. But it's the fact you start off with like a pistol, and it's like you could buy like pistols that were better. And it's like, there was no, I don't know, it's just everything about it just felt kind of repetitive, boring. There wasn't much in it. Like, as you said, they might have added more content now. I think back then, it was kind of like, I would say that's probably one of my disappointments, or one of the games that I felt disappointed in. For the ones that succeeded though, like, again, going back to like Battlefront 2, it's like, you can't really go wrong with that, can you? Like the original Battlefront 2, I mean, there's just so many that you could go back to, like Empire at War as well. Absolutely love. See, actually, this is the thing, like, I love the space battles for Empire at War. I didn't really like the ground battles in it.
No.
I feel as if they're very, like, I wouldn't say copy-paste. They're not the worst I've ever seen, but they're just very standard. They're just kind of like, they're okay, They're serviceable, but it's like the real kind of, I can't wait to throw, like, all of my Star Destroyers at this rebel scum, at once. Like, there's just something, there's definitely something very entertaining about it. I mean, even a shout out to some of the lesser known ones, like Rogue One, although it does have its problems, but Rogue Squadron, sorry. I nearly praised the film, I caught myself in the end.
I was like, oh, where's he going with this?
Yeah, you were cracking your sandwich knuckles there, being like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, Rogue Squadron, rather. That was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. And I enjoyed Jedi Outcast as well. Granted, I didn't play a lot of it because when I played it, I was younger and I got lost quite easy. So I kept like shooting the stormtroopers and I was like, where am I going? I mean, the Lego games, as you said, even like I don't remember much of it, but Jedi Starfighter was good as well. I'm just trying to think. Even Clone Wars. I'll go as far to say that Clone Wars was a good one.
I liked it at the time. It was like I replayed that game a lot. That the vehicle combat one we're talking about.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I replayed that so many times when I was young. I loved it. I went back and played it a few years ago, and I was like, "Oh, this doesn't really, hold up now." But I loved it at the time.
Yeah, because technically they do have a game based on the 2008 series.
Oh, yeah?
It was not received well.
Oh no!
It was really bad. Like, apparently it is like one of the worst rated Star Wars games of all time. Yeah, like I was like, oh, surely it can't be that bad. And I'm not brave enough to buy it and play it on stream or anything. Yeah, just I watched the videos and people were reviewing it and they were just like, this is awful. And it's like, yeah, this is just slowly, just like, yeah, this is terrible. This is a terrible, terrible game, or it looks like a terrible game. And I mean, even like Force Unleashed, I thought the first one, at the very least, was a lot of fun. Because apparently the Wii version actually is the only one that has a 2-player mode. Yeah, so you can basically duel people. So when this whole sorry, that's honestly, I mean this like in the nicest way, but it's probably going to come out a really like aggressive way to be like, yeah, when the lockdown's over, you, me, duel.
Let's go.
Yeah, challenging someone to a duel live on Twitch. I hope that's not against the TOS. I'm sure it's fine. But I mean, it is a franchise that, although it's had its dips, it is still going. And I don't mean like Star Wars as a whole, like obviously that's still going. But I mean in terms of the game side. Because there was quite a few years where there was just nothing in terms of Star Wars games, wasn't there?
There does look to have been like a... Just again trying to flick through the kind of timeline here, but it does look like there was a period for a while where they did just kind of peter out. I think after the prequel films were finished, it was a bit of a lull. Well, maybe why Force Unleashed was such like a breath of fresh air, because you're like, oh, we haven't had like a big Star Wars game in a while, and the fact that it was good as well.
That's true. So one more question, and again, sorry for putting you on the spot, but before we start to get
nothing else from Satsunami than to be
yeah, when you signed the contract, which you technically didn't, but yeah, let's not go into you knew what.
Yeah, that's what I mean, thinking I have signed a contract.
Yeah, you knew what you were getting yourself into. When you took on the sandwich avatar, you knew. Now, what I was going to ask was, what would your, maybe not dream, like, Star Wars game be, but, like, what would be a game from the Star Wars franchise you would like to see in the future?
For me, so I'm not, like, the biggest Star Wars fan. Like, I've seen the film, I've seen all the films, obviously I played quite a few of the games and stuff, but I wasn't the biggest Star Wars fan. But what I've always found most interesting about the Star Wars universe is like the actual I say quote unquote ordinary people, but basically not the Jedi.
Yeah.
I like stories for the most part. I like the stories that kind of focus more on ordinary characters and stuff. But then, like whether they're part of the Rebellion, Empire, whatever, like just people who don't have force powers. So I would like to see more games in the Star Wars universe that like focus on people like that, and I think that's why 1313 sounded so interesting, because it was going to be it was going to be quite like I say dark and gritty. It probably wouldn't have been like the darkest or grittiest game, it's still a Star Wars game, but it was going to be a more dark and gritty take. So I'd love to see something like that, something akin to what 1313 was supposed to be like. Whether you're playing as like a smuggler or bounty hunter, or whatever, but kind of like going into like the kind of denizens and like the kind of slum maybe parts of whatever you want to pick. A game like that. I mean, whether it's like a kind of platformer style one like Uncharted, or whether it's more kind of action focused, or if it's like an open world one, I don't really mind so much, but I would like to see a game with the focus on something like a more quote unquote ordinary character.
Because I mean, I think technically the closest we ever got was probably, I mean, beyond like Battlefront and those kind of games, the like Republic Commando and things like that. I think technically the closest we got to that was Star Wars Bounty Hunter, where we got to see like the kind of seedy underbelly of Coruscant and, you know, all these different worlds and things, and you got to explore. And granted, yeah, I think that's another game that hasn't aged well, but like considering what they've kind of learned nowadays, and I think I can't remember like if they are working on the game right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were, because, you know, big money maker. I think that Ubisoft are in talks to make a new game. Yeah,
they're working on it apparently.
Which should be interesting, but I just hope it's not another Jedi simulator, because, I mean, not that I've got anything against Jedi, but I see what you mean. It's like, it's kind of like an area that's not as explored, you know, unless it's like in a massive scale, like Battlefront and Republic Commando, because everything else it's either you're a Jedi or, you know, like, it would be cool. Like, I would agree with you, it would be cool to see something like that. But the other, and this is me going off on a little tangent, but like, see if it had to be a game that was like, you know, linked to the main series. And don't get me wrong, I know technically that it's not canon anymore, but a couple of weeks ago, just to give you guys context, my friend Green Shield and I talked about the 2003 Clone Wars series on a separate Satsunami episode, and basically, like, honestly, it is just such a, it's like balls to the wall crazy. It is just such an insane like series that, like, it basically, like, as the title suggests, Clone Wars, it focuses on like kind of minor, or not minor, but big skirmishes, and it's always like over the top. I don't know how they would do it, but honestly, like, if they just like went like off on one and just like, right, we're going to throw this in, we're going to throw that in, we're just going to mix it together and pray for the best, it's like, yeah, I'm all for that.
That would be cool in fairness.
Yeah, like, I mean, it probably would be something like Fallen, well, no, not like Fallen Order, just like maybe a bit more like a linear Fallen Order, but I don't know. It would be cool, kinda, to see. I guess we'll find out. Like, because let's face it, nowadays Star Wars is always announcing something like once every 5 minutes, aren't they?
I'm sure we'll find out soon.
Can you wait for the next Star Wars game?
Probably. I've got 5 minutes to spare. I'll refresh my page and see what comes up.
It's like, nah, nothing.
5 new games have come. 5 new games have been released.
It's like, as you know how people make the X a Star Wars story jokes?
Yeah.
It's like, Jim the janitor, a Star Wars story, you know, and things like that. Yeah, they'll probably. Although, funny enough, did they not make an Obi-Wan Kenobi game for the Xbox? Because the only reason I bring it up is because they had it in, I don't even know if it was Blockbuster or something like that. That's how long ago I'm going back here. But they had it, like, kind of lying out, and it was only for the Xbox, so I never got the chance to play it. I don't know.
But that's not to say that it wasn't a thing.
Well, it's not coming up on the list.
Well, I'm not seeing I'm not seeing an Obi-Wan game.
Impossible.
Possible.
Perhaps the archives are incomplete. Yeah, just throwing in one more for the road.
Oh no, there was one. Star Wars Obi-Wan. You're right.
Oh, thank God.
Oh my God, I remember that. I've never played it, but I remember that cover now. I'm just looking at it. Oh yeah.
It was well, not creepiest, but it was the weirdest cover, wasn't it? It was just like
Yeah.
Obi-Wan's face in the darkness, and he had like a kind of, I don't think he had a blue light. It was like a green lightsaber, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a green
Look at the
lightsaber.
cover, even though
I'll read out the tag. I'll read out the tagline for it. The fate of a Jedi, the destiny of a galaxy. Does that make you want to play it?
It makes me more confused more than anything. I want to go home.
It looks like a retelling of the Phantom Menace. Well, the retelling of the Phantom Menace plus some events prior to it.
Oh, okay. See, that's weird because they literally had a Phantom Menace game, which was, can I just say, like, before we finish up and, as I said, like, start reading some comments, it's really weird. Like, the game for the Phantom Menace is like a big, like, top-down game, or like, you know, it's like a top-down point of view, if that makes sense. Like, so you're always, like, pointing the camera down the way as this guy's like running around. There's like a lot of platforming in it as well. So like, see if you make like a wrong jump and end up falling down like a speeding fan or something, you actually get chopped up into pieces. And for PS1 times, that's brutal. I think I only got to Tatooine, and then like I went round a corner as Qui-Gon Jinn, and I met like this tank waiting for me. It was either a tank or it was like a huge like Acme trap, let's just say, that crushed me. And it was just like, yeah, I'm done with this game. I don't want to play this game anymore. It's like, thank you, no problem. Although, sorry, one more honourable mention. The Revenge of the Sith game was fantastic as well.
I forgot about that one. That one was good, actually. That was a good one.
That was so good. Because I think they really capitalised on like adding extra scenes to make it flow better, and it was just so good. And I loved that there was a 2-player like dual mode as well. All I'm saying is I've got both that and the Force Unleashed just waiting.
Right, well,
just waiting.
Looks like are you throwing down? Is this what this is?
I am. This is me grabbing the mic like saying 1v1.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned. This is gonna happen now.
Yeah. To be fair, we can save it for the Let's Play coming up soon.
Definitely. Now that you've challenged me, I mean, I would run away from it if this was a regular like real life fight. I would definitely run away.
Oh no, so would I.
Video game form. I will accept your challenge, sir.
Yes. Yeah, because I'm probably the kind of person that would challenge someone to a fight, and then I get a knock on my door and be like, "Who the hell is that?" And they'd be like, "Oh shit."
It's like that Simpsons episode where he's like, "Would a coward do this?"
Oh yeah. Is that the same episode where Homer challenges everyone to a duel?
Yeah,
that's exactly what I was thinking. It's just like, I challenge you to a duel. But yeah, sorry. Again, thank you so much for...
thank you for having me.
Yep, always appreciated. And your sandwichiness.
Well, my sandwich will always be here, no matter how rotten and it gets. Just remember to put me in the fridge afterwards, so it stays like fresh for next week.
Yeah, a wizard did it. That's the excuse. So yeah, as always, everyone, thank you so much for stopping in. Thank you so much for the raid once again, much appreciated. If you want to see more of my content, you can catch me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and of course Twitch under the name Satsunami42. If you want to hear more Chatsunami episodes from ourselves, then if you head over to Anchor, Spotify, or good podcast distributors, we're also on iTunes, which I thought that is pretty awesome. So yeah, Chatsunami. I made it! If you don't have any access to that either, then have no fear, because we are also on YouTube. Again, under the name Satsunami42, we can catch previous episodes. And yeah, thank you everyone. As always, thank you all so much for stopping by and listening. Always appreciated, always glad to have you guys here. As always, stay safe, stay awesome, and most importantly, stay hydrated, and have a happy Revenge of the 5th. Ugh, what a tongue twister. You want to try it?
No.
Yeah, nope.
I made a fool of myself enough today.
Oh, bye guys.
Bye.